So, remember when I said that Azazel's Den would occasionally have guests? Well, right now, in Discord with me is Thurman, and we
Yo,
encountered a little bit of a fuckwad in one of our Facebook groups that has some very, very strong opinions about Blaze Blue and the cross tag battle.
so yeah, that was one of those days where I was a bad day at work, and I just didn't like. I was just going off on this guy. Like the amount of fanboyism that I've seen is just insane to me. Like I've never thought I'd have to deal with someone who would of this much of the FGC. It just shows that the rumors about the FGC is true,
Oh,
and and it's just like why. So, David, you like to give a summary of what happened, or shall I?
so basically, I think it was myself that posted originally the roster.
Yeah,
Basically, just like making fun of how asinine this is for a game to have dominance from one roster type to the other when it's not just guest characters. It's supposed to be a full-on crossover like you have with Marvel vs. Capcom, stuff like that.
hmm
And with the balance of almost 75% of the characters being directly from Blaze Blue, and then Underbirth and Ruby and Persona getting shit on as the guest rosters, it was a bit of like, why even bother not making this a Blaze Blue game with guest characters instead of a crossover? Because literally it's marketed as a crossover game.
yeah. So this the guy was arguing basically what he was arguing was that because it's true like Blade Blue legitly had a trailer just for Blade Arc System had a trailer just for Blade Blue characters,
Mm-hmm.
and our argument is the, his argument was, well, the developer said it's Blaze Blue with crossover characters. It's not a crossover game. It's Blaze Blue type. And my argument to that is no, that is not the case. They can say that whatever they can say whatever they want. The developers can say whatever they want. They can try to sugarcoat it for the fans to ease up. But us as fighting game fans and people, and I'm a Blaze Blue fan myself. Those of us who know, this is not a Blaze Blue game. This is a crossover
Mm-hmm.
title. And his argument was the fact that this is Blaze Blue with guest characters. No, if this was Blaze Blue with guest characters, what would have happened was it would have been Blaze Blue Central Fiction and New Narukami, Ruby, and Hyde from Under Night Emperor would have been guest characters. Just those four alone from their own game.
Bingo.
That these are guest characters. This is one franchise, four franchises with a bunch of characters from each of the franchises being in the game. This is a crossover title. That's like saying Street Fighter Cross Tekken is a main Street Fighter game just because Street Fighter is in the name. No, no, no. And his argument was baffling to me. He said, so his thing was like he says like characters like Akuma and he's basically saying like Tekken 7 in any game that had like a crossover had a guest character was a crossover title now, which was the most idiotic statement I've ever heard in my life because he doesn't know the difference between a guest character and a crossover character. And what irritated me the most was the fact that how much he was basically essentially dick riding this and defending this where they could say don't what they're doing what Arc System Work is doing right now is there's advertising this game as a crossover. That's what they're doing. They're saying, oh look, you can play as characters from Persona. Look, you can play as characters from Ruby. Oh look, you can play as characters from Blade Blue, from A Night in Birth. This is not a guest character game. This is a crossover where you can choose characters from four series, different series that have nothing to do with each other, with, and and just you can play as them as a tag team, which was good. And the main issue is the fact that this guy kept trying to sugarcoat and saying, well, it's they're saying it's a guest Blaze Begin with guest characters, so that's true. That's not true. They're advertising. What they're saying is contradicting what they're advertising.
Exactly. And this is a fantastic point where we have to either say, hey, marketing, you have to either change what you're doing because your advertisements are not meeting with what we're actually want this game marketed as, because this is clearly one or the other, or for the developers to figure out what the hell they actually want this game to be before it hits the shelves, because neither side really wants to waver in this argument, and it's become increasingly clear that they want to front load all of the BlazBlue characters. And what I was arguing back and forth with this guy before I actually just decided I'm talking to a freaking brick wall is, like, what they could do here is they could pull off what one of our gaming discussions is going to be, is like the games as a service. And the perfect example of this is we have 4 announced Ruby characters currently, right, Thurman?
Yeah, well, two at launch and then 2 DLC, but the DLC will be free, I think they said.
Free at launch.
Blake. Yeah, Blake
and Yang will be free at launch, so it's basically the 4 characters. What they could use is the games as a service marketing tactic here, and like, okay, year 2 of DLC could be your Persona characters, perfect. Year 3 could be your Under Night and Birth characters, boom. Year 4, Ruby, boom. This is what the gaming industry has kind of become, where one side really doesn't know what the other wants, and it's sadly really hitting the fighting game community hard, because you see it with Tekken, with DLC pushed constantly. Arc System is notorious for this with their overpriced characters, especially with like Central Fiction, with characters being upwards of $8 a piece.
Yep.
So if they really wanted to milk this for all they could, they really could with that tactic, and that was my main point to this guy that was arguing with us for what I believe was almost 8 hours.
It's and the one thing we're trying to put into this guy was the fact that he legitimately was trying to push towards this like surprise that BlazBlue, this is a BlazBlue title with guest characters, and the fact that he kept trying to say it's like one of his biggest arguments was the Smash Bros. Remember, David, he was like saying like we were saying like if let's take Smash Bros. How it's still a crossover game, but it has like Mario characters have 6 characters, but like other characters from like Kirby only have 3, because that's either due to popularity or because Mario has enough characters that can be playable in the game. Like for BlazBlue, there are enough characters from Persona and Under Night in Birth and from what's that one series called? Ruby, that you don't need like 10 BlazBlue characters at launch. Like, you don't need that. Exactly. And the thing is, though, we have yet to see a new Ruby character. And honestly, I'm not that big into Ruby. I'm on season 3, I think. Season 3 for sure. And I mean, David and Red are bigger into Ruby than I am, but I would love to play as Ruby characters. I would legitimately like that, because playing Ruby characters would get me into Ruby more, because I've seen gameplay, early gameplay footage of it, and Ruby and Weiss look like hell up on the play.
They are really fun, because I've got my hands on the demo, and it was actually really fun playing as Ruby. I'm not as big of a BlazBlue fan as I used to be, because I got sick and tired of the overpriced DLC characters, which is very, very contradictory to my typical stance on, I'm fine with microtransactions, but when you're charging $8 for one character, it's a little bit of a middle finger to the fan. So I kind of let that drift by the wayside. The last one I played was for the Vita, and it was the free PlayStation Plus title. And I mean, it was fun. I love the series, but I hate Arc System's tactics for DLC. Uh, so I could see a lot of the potential for this game to actually revitalize the series in fans' eyes, because not only is it something fresh and unique for the series to actually have a crossover, you know, with all these other universes that fans are so beloved and everything. It's just like, but why? It's the issue of why front load so many characters when a crossover, when done right, would always have a balanced roster. And that was my one point to this guy. Like, it's Smash at launch, the original Smash, you know, was somewhat balanced. I mean, obviously Mario with 2 and, you know, a couple, well, 3 technically with Yoshi. Is just like the roster has to technically be somewhat balanced. And he's like, well, but it's never truly been balanced with Smash. It's never truly been balanced with Marvel vs. Capcom. Marvel vs. Capcom, if I'm not mistaken, has always had a somewhat balanced roster, unless DLC was involved. Am I not correct there, Thurman?
Oh, you're correct. It's always been balanced when it comes to characters. There hasn't been like one what Marvel, like, until Disney got their putting little hands on it. It hasn't really been, you know, like, which is better, Marvel or Capcom. It's always been like a middle ground.
Exactly. And we touched on the controversy of fucking the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and why it's dying technically, and
or it's dead.
Well,
it's
yeah.
dead.
It's pretty much.
I can't find a skill game online anymore.
I didn't bother buying it because I assumed there would be like an ultimate version. So I was like, I'll wait. Maybe I should pick it up just to add to the collection. Maybe I should just let it sit on the shelf at GameStop.
I'll definitely get it.
I mean, I'll eventually get it because I have every single version of the game today, like 1 through now, technically. Aside for the re-release on the PS4 or Xbox One for Ultimate 3, but I don't see any purpose in buying the same game multiple times, you know, for a different system. But with BlazBlue, with this tag battle shit, it's really sad to see how much the fans have dick-roaded into oblivion already before it's even launched.
Yeah,
I don't like bringing up drama either, you know, on the channel, but this really needed to be addressed. So, I mean, if anybody has a true clarification if this is technically BlazBlue with the crossover characters or the guest characters, or if this is actually what it's been marketed as, you know.
Yeah, because I don't see them marketing as a BlazBlue title with guest characters. They have been marketing it as a crossover.
I mean,
like the whole focal point of this game is the tag battle. Like, hell, they could even go what Namco did, is do a Tekken tag battle, Tekken tag tournament style game. They could have done that if they wanted to make it a BlazBlue title. Like,
exactly,
it is possible to do like a tag style. Tekken tag tournament is an amazing.
And it's always sold relatively well. I mean,
yeah.
And they could have added in, you know, Ruby and Weiss for a team for Ruby. They could have added in, you know, 2 Persona characters. I mean, literally pick 2. There are hundreds of them. You could have picked 2 from Under Night and Birth, and it would have been, you know, guest characters. But the fact that they have roughly, between the 3 franchises that are the guest rosters, about 10 characters at least, it's like, this isn't just a guest game. This is more of the wonderful crossover that it's been promised as. But marketing clearly has, you know, this idea of guest, or not this guest, but this crossover, while the developer's like, I want this to be my product, my game, my characters, all boom, 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 boom. So that's why I was thinking along the lines of the games of service, like, that's how they're going to introduce, you know, evening out the rosters, because it's more friendly for the consumer to have that now than the wonderful, wonderful $8 characters that you have been doing in the past from our Systems orgs.
And the thing about it is the fact that this is we've said this before, and we even said it when it comes to talking to this guy is what our workers understand is they're basically flaunting their, because I'm pretty sure the reason why, I don't know if Rooster Teeth or Atlas have said anything about how they're marketing this, because Undernight and Burke still technically IT for Arc Systems, but I don't even know how Rooster Teeth or Atlas feels about how Arc Systems basically just shitting on their own franchise. Because if I was them, I take this as, why is Arc Systems basically showing favoritism over my series instead of, like this, like the crossover should be treatment, not because, and this is coming from a humongous Blaze fan. Like, I'm excited for the Blaze. I'm gonna main some of the Blaze. I already pre-ordered the game. I'm gonna main Ragnar. I'm gonna try out some new characters that I haven't played of Blaze Fiction. I'll try out S. I'll try out a bunch of other characters, but I also want to try out characters Persona Ruby, because it'll give me a series. Like hell, like for example, playing Capcom, I started to play as Captain Marvel, and now I want to read Captain Marvel comics because he's interesting as a character.
Yeah.
The main reason why I'm into Ghost Rider, why I'm into Guardians of the Galaxy now, the Marvel vs. Capcom. Why I'm into Rogue, etc., etc. And I don't know how Rooster Teeth. I don't know if Dave, you'll probably know more than I do. I don't know if Rooster Teeth said this right here is something that a developer doesn't want to do, because Atlas is already at the point where they don't want to do crossovers anymore, because they didn't even want to do the crossover with Nintendo. I don't know if Tokyo Mirage sold well. I don't know.
It didn't sell that well, but it was a fantastic game.
I don't know. Yeah, it was probably because of
it was on a dead system to begin with.
Well, yeah, that's true. If they ported it, probably sell well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would actually love to see that get ported, because I don't want to pay the asinine amount that retro shops or even GameStop is charging for it. That's one thing that I'm not a fan of, hunting down Wii U titles or Wii titles as a whole, because as much shovelware has been out for those systems at this point, they're still very, very, very highly priced, even on the retro market. So that's one that I've been kind of debating on, like, is it worth buying it and dusting off the Wii U, who is literally sitting right here, unplugged and just sitting on top of my my GameCube, that is also sitting on top of my mini fridge, which is sitting beside my PS2 and my PS3, so I can make room for this new setup that we're utilizing for filming everything.
And so with that in mind, like Atlas, I don't think Atlas and like Ruby. I believe this is Rooster Teeth's first time them giving out their product to someone else, and the way it's being handled isn't really professional.
Exactly. Like, that's why I'm kind of surprised that Rooster Teeth hasn't come out and like, yeah, we don't agree with this, but we already licensed the character to be utilized. As of yet, the only actual thing that I've seen advertised by Rooster Teeth on this was on the Off Topic podcast, and Lindsay came in saying, yeah, I did voice lines for Ruby for a BlazBlue fighting game, and they're like, yeah, it's a relatively popular fighting game, and Ruby's going to be in it. That's really cool. And they continued on that, for good 10-20 minutes, because that's what a podcast is. If you've ever watched ours, it's literally us just sitting and talking. It's really interesting that they've not said more. I'm wondering if it's more along the lines of, are we really going to care as long as we make money, or is it more along the lines of, we're regretting selling the IP to be utilized in this manner? I mean, they just announced a Ruby mobile game like a week ago, and then the only other Ruby game that's out there is the Grim Eclipse, that was started as a fan project and then picked up by Rooster Teeth Games. So, I mean, Ruby really hasn't seen a lot of cross-media, aside from being dubbed over in Japan and becoming insanely popular over there. and that being one of the relatively first times a American product is blown up to anime levels in a foreign country, at least in this sense. It's really weird. I'm hoping that like Carrie and the rest of the crewbie actually say something about how their actual, product is being utilized here, because at the end of the day, that's all Ruby is to Rooster Teeth, is a product in this sense, and it's being basically shit on by Arxis. So I don't know about the Outlast end at this point. I don't think they've even said anything.
It's because I think it's one of those things where I agree with you. I feel like they want to say something, but they just can't. Because I mean, if Rooster Teeth doesn't have any complaints about how the game is being marketed, there's nothing I can do about that. I mean, I guess me personally, I don't see why they would be happy about how the series is being marketed. But if for some chance they're okay with what's happening, then there's nothing we can do about it. But I think it's either that, or they want to say something, but it's kind of like a hush hush type of thing, where we want to. Because I don't know how Rooster Teeth is as a business. If they're like we gonna give 2 fucks, or if they're like kind of like the bribe type, or if it's kind of like we just like go low type deal. I don't know what type of company they are, so I don't know like for this type of situation for them how they react. Are they like no filter, like we're gonna call out bullshit when we see it when it comes to our own stuff, or is it like we're just keeping our mouth shut, so we're getting a cut from this game regardless, or something? I don't know. I don't know like that. So I mean, me personally, I'm surprised they haven't come out and said like, hey, our system, you haven't even showed any characters from like besides like the 4 Ruby characters. Like, what about like other teams? Like, what about the main villain? Like, because I'd be interested to see.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Hey, characters. Justin.
What's up?
Hey, what's up?
We're talking about the Blaze Blue game right now. Filming a little bit of content here. And then we're going to be discussing some future projects as well, so that's why I kind of wanted you in here.
Okay, cool. I don't have my proper microphone on, but yeah.
You sound well enough on this one. So,
okay, alright, good.
So, Thurman, to kind of bring in your point there, I'm assuming that we're going to see probably Team Stark, or what remains of Team Juniper at the very least, as DLC. Hopefully on the Ruby end, but I really would like to see like some Persona 5 representation, because so far I think all we see is Persona 4 being represented on that end. But
yeah, because I think I never played Persona 4 started off as an RPG, right? Then it got then the fighting game itself was a spin-off.
Yeah, they got the Persona 4 Arena, and then Arena Golden for like the full version. I believe that was Arc Systems that did that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Arc System was the one who made the Persona 4 game, like the fighting game.
So I'm assuming what they're using here are pre-made skeletal forms for this game, and just
a lot of this game is basically just like re-sprites, but just stuff, basically using the same. Because from what I've seen from gameplay, it seems like everyone has the same moves that they have in the original game, just balanced and different. Besides, like the only thing that's like kind of like original is the Ruby characters. You have to start from scratch from them, because they don't have like fighting sprites.
Well, they really didn't have to start from scratch, because a lot of the moves that they've utilized at least in the demo that I played, the moves that they had from that are directly ripped from the Grim Eclipse game.
Okay.
So it's just basically they're repurposing the button mapping and a lot of that stuff. So it's like Ruby's scythe spin, all that shit, that's directly ripped from that game. But the only difference here is they're fighting on a 2.5D frame instead of the three-dimensional full-on Dynasty Warriors bullshit that Grim Eclipse was. So it's just basically remapping a few frames, doing some minor tweaking. And I'm really emphasizing minor there, because there wasn't a whole lot that needed to be done. And then obviously they reskinned it to be in the Blaze Blue style instead of the traditional Rooster Teeth style. It's very, very minor tweaks that they've done. I'd be really interested to see once gameplay is released for like Blake and Yang to see if they did the same they did with the Weiss and the Ruby model. But as of right now, it's pretty much just repurposing skins.
Yeah. So I mean, all in all, this guy, oh my god, arguing with this guy was just so tiring.
I gave up after like 5 hours of bullshitting back and forth with this dude. I mean, I see his point. I really do. And that's the reason why I really don't like to bring up drama on the channel. Is like, I see the points that were being made, and he's not entirely wrong, but he's also not entirely right either.
My issue was the fact that first he was like, you don't have enough evidence to prove, like, first of all, you don't need evidence. What you brought was, like, what he was saying was, I can't fault him completely, because it's honestly his Arc System Works' fault. I'm blaming the developer, because they're being wishy-washy with their fans. They keep saying that it's a Blaze Blue game with guest characters, but they're marketing as a crossover title. So you have to pick and choose your battle. Pick one. Is it a Blaze Blue game with guest characters, or is it a crossover game? Like,
and one would make a hell of a lot more sense than the other at this point.
Yeah, because it could be either or at this point. Like, because we have had a character trailer because the game's coming out next month, and on Tuesday I already pre-ordered the game and everything.
Wait, it's in June? I thought it was July.
Nope, in June next month. I already pre-ordered.
I'll finish paying that shit off then. God damn it.
I already put $5 down. It's just like,
I got like 10 on it at this point. Yeah, a couple paydays before then.
So it's just like, I don't understand why they would try to market this game the way they're marketing it when they should know that they're like the fan bases that, I don't know how big the Undying Birth fan base is, but
it's not that big really.
But so,
at least here in America. I don't know about Japan.
Yeah. So my biggest thing is the fact that there are multiple fan bases of the series that they're basically shitting on. Mm-hmm. And what this dude needs to understand is the fact that they can't, the way they were trying to market this game isn't looking good for them itself.
Any of them.
Because already what they fucked up on was the 20 character DLC stuff that they're marketing. That was already at Mark 1. Then the fact that they went to brutalize it with Blaze Blue was another cost. So basically, we're at 2 strikes right now.
Yeah, exactly.
One good thing they have done is telling the fans like, okay, Ruby, Weiss, and Blake will be free on launch, which is good. Good job for them. But we still have no Ruby characters. Like, are they waiting? Is there like a Rooster Teeth event that they're waiting to reveal Ruby characters from? I don't know, like, why they would wait so long when the game literally has like a month left to come out. Because at this point, I truly believe we're only getting 4 characters. That's it from Ruby.
Yeah. See, what they could have done.
That's the case.
What they could have done, and I'm sure you can agree with me here, Thurman, is just, and this is one of the most common marketing tactics in modern gaming, is just like announce that there's going to be a season pass. Boom. Nobody would have shed a fucking tear. Nobody would have complained. Nobody would have said anything. Because it's so goddamn common at this point.
Yep.
And then it would have been like, okay, cool, season pass, great. We know we'll have DLC characters. And Justin, I'm glad you're weighing in here, is because this is something that you and I have been back and forth about as well, with how microtransactions and shit work nowadays. It's so goddamn common to see something like that.
Yeah. I actually wanted to elaborate on something with the season pass that games are implementing now, and that is battle passes. Like, for example, Fortnite, like, you level up your character for so much, and, like, say you get it up to, like, level 10, you can get, like, a new outfit for it, or, like, you know, So I think that'd be a good interpretation. Obviously, there's no leveling system, but I guarantee you they could do that as well alongside the season pass.
Yeah, and see that would actually work well with the fighting games as well, because you see that a lot of times they actually bring out like skins and shit for alternate stuff. So I mean, they could use the battle pass method here for like, okay, who's your main? Cool, here's a battle pass for $4.99. Cool.
Yeah.
Now you can use that and you can max out your character. You can get all the skins for a discounted price, and people would eat that shit up. What do you think, Thurman?
Yeah, I would agree. It's just the way our system work is not very good at marketing at all. Like even with Guilty Gear,
they really aren't. I gotta agree there.
They're really, really bad at it. They make amazing stuff, but god damn, their marketing is trash. Like to the point where I don't even know how. Like if it wasn't for how great their fighting games were, how good of a developer they are, I couldn't even see them competing with like Crapcom and like other like Namco like that.
Crapcom.
Because to be honest with you, people may shun me for this, but man, our system of fighting games rival stuff that Capcom and Namco has made, and NetherRealm Studios, like Blaze Blue rivals.
At least their servers are not unbalanced.
Yeah, like playing online is. It's just like they're kind of a developer company. Like it's just like my issue is they don't know how to market well, like Capcom does.
Ooh.
And
see that Thurman, that's the perfect point here. Like, look at their marketing for Dragon Ball FighterZ. It actually went smoothly. You would almost think that somebody else did the marketing for them because of how important the IP is.
Yes, that is true. And this game is phenomenal. I'm playing it right now. This game is phenomenal. It's just like you don't like. It feels like it. Honestly, like you said this before, David, but I truly feel like if they would have done a better job if they would have just did a simple Blaze Blue versus Guilty Gear.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was perfect.
That would have been perfect. Like, you could have made this game so many different ways that they're bringing out here in June. I'm being informed of, so I gotta pay off my fucking pre-order. I've lost track of how many things I have pre-ordered right now. Like, they've actually could have done this so many different ways. They could have made like Blaze Blue versus Unrated in Birth. They could have made Blaze Blue versus Guilty Gear. They could have made Blaze Blue versus Persona. They could have made Blaze Blue versus Ruby. They could have done any of that, and it would have sold a lot better than trying to meld all of these different franchises.
I would have liked if they made a Ruby fighting game. Perfect. Just like they're doing with...
but see, the issue with making a straight-up Ruby fighter game is, as great as the character diversity really is in Ruby, there's not a whole lot that's been established for so many of the characters. Like, after Volume 3, we haven't seen half the fucking cast. So it's been one of those things where, like, yeah, remember those characters? You might see them again. That's been one major complaint Red and I've actually had and agreed on completely. It's just like, there's so many characters that could have been involved in Volumes 4 and 5 because we're in the city or the world, essentially, of so many of these characters that went to school there. But conveniently, the school's on break. So, who knows where the hell any of them are?
I mean, because I'm not very caught up. Because I'm assuming, is there a time skip in Ruby right now?
It's not a very long time skip. It's a couple months. So
you can spoil it for me. I don't really give a damn. So I'm on season 3 right now. I'm going to have to start where they're like at the tournament right now.
So after the tournament, shit gets real. People die. Volume 4 is basically, I'm going to say like a 6-month time skip for traveling across continent. So it pulls a Bleach, essentially.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say there's not what Bleach did.
And then Season 5 is just, or Volume 5 is just basically wrapping up some of the plot threads from Volume 4. And the introduction of the Deus Ex Machina And that's where Red and I really shit on it during our reviews.
So my thing was this is the fact that Arc System Works is like I really, that's one of the reasons why I want to be into the video game industry so badly. Like, I want to know why they're doing this, why they think it's such a strategy to essentially do this type of marketing.
You want to know two major reasons, Thurman? And I don't even need to be in the video game industry to know this. One, money.
Yeah, let me know.
Money. Because not only are they grabbing at the balls of one fandom, being Blaze Blue, they're grabbing at the Under Night in Birth, they're grabbing at the Ruby/Rooster Teeth fandom, they're grabbing at the balls of the Persona fandom, and they're squeezing them for all they're worth. Because they see their franchise being represented in this game, they know they can make money. No matter how shitty it is, as long as they get that initial sale, it's literally like a Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. They saw the opportunity to capitalize on the MCU. That's why every character that was in Infinite was represented in the MCU. So once
I'm not upset about that. Like people can get upset about now no mutants all they want. I'm not really upset about that at all.
Well,
My biggest thing was the fact that Disney kind of
they controlled the marketing.
It. Like Marvel, the good thing about Ultimate Marvel's Capcom 3 is that I saw commercials for that daily. I saw the commercial. People knew what game was coming out. I saw early gameplay videos. Like
Disney did not allow the game out, aside from their pro players. They didn't allow their characters to get hurt in marketing. They didn't allow anything to happen to their characters because they wanted them held in a perfect light. And then that's why the marketing failed for that, because to the player base, they seemed overpowered. And it just was Papa Mouse ruining everything. So it was like...
And this is why Disney shouldn't touch... This is why Disney essentially shouldn't touch... Because that's the reason. That's the main reason why they had to close their own video game studio.
Exactly, and that's why that's why LucasArts even closed down. Hey, Thurman, you want to take the wheel for a minute?
Yeah. So what we're saying is the reason why we feel like Disney shouldn't touch video games because they had to close down some of their one of their most popular games. I think it was like Disney World or something that had like all their Disney products in it. That the company that made that got shut down, and it was just like why would you try to control like a part of an industry that you obviously don't have very good business decisions in? Like Disney should just focus on the Mickey Mouses and then like the stuff like that. Because they don't know how to market video games well enough to be able to make it successful. Disney is the main reason why Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was besides the roster itself. But there's the main reason why...
Thurman, what was the last game that Disney Interactive actually marketed? wasn't it Disney Infinite?
I think so.
It was Disney Infinite, but the company that made that shut it down.
Yep. So... what really weirded me out in the marketing for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, look at the character models for, like, Gamora. Look at them for Drax. Don't they kind of look like they were ripped out of the Toys to Life marketing? Look at the character models for that. It's like they just recycled that and just blew it up to the actual plane of the existence of Marvel vs. Capcom. So, say the Drax model was blown up like 25% to where it actually matches the character models that were already existing for, like, your Chris Redfields or your Strider Ryu and all that. That's what Disney really, really suffers from, is they reuse all of their assets for every game that they make. As long as it's from the same generation, they reuse all of that. No matter how they look, how they appear in that plane of existence. They actually suffer from this, like, if it's not broke, don't fix it mentality.
Yeah.
And every iteration that they've actually utilized since, I think, the PS2 era, they've seen their sales go down by using that tactic. So it's like, don't you think you've ruined enough shit? Let somebody else actually take the reins here and use your IP and make you money. You can't be successful on every front, essentially.
No, you cannot. And video games is something they do not do well in at all. Like, they tried it, and obviously it didn't work because they had to close down one of their studios that makes video games for them. So
exactly.
It's just like, and that's the one thing I don't want BlazBlue to end up. I see BlazBlue becoming the next. I see BlazBlue becoming the next Marvel Capcom Infinite if it's not done well.
And that's what's really drove this entire discussion, is like, we see potential for this game to actually succeed, but what needs to happen is we need to see, one, clarification of what this actually is, so the fandom is not completely divided, because we see Reddit posts from the Persona end, you know, shitting on, like, hey, this isn't right for our franchise that's guests starring in this universe to actually, you know, see this for this crossover. We see the Under Night in Birth fandom on Reddit doing the same thing. Like, we're supposed to be, you know, a crossover. This isn't like us just appearing in this. We should be in the same light as the BlazBlue franchise. We see that from Ruby's Reddit. Like, what the hell's going on? Why don't we have more than 4 characters?
Yeah, you know, like, I'm pretty sure if you look on the Reddit, there are a lot of people who are complaining about it. We're not the only ones, people.
There
are a lot of people Under Night in Birth, in Persona, in
even the BlazBlue fandom's like, what the hell's going on here?
Well, the good ones. Keep in mind, the good ones are asking what the hell's going on here, because
the tryhards are arguing with the people that have some sense of stability in their mind, like, this isn't right. And then they're just arguing for 8 hours on end, you know, with fucking in a comment thread on some random Facebook page. It's just like, so to summarize, Thurman, what do you want to see from this game? Do you want to see it not only clarified, but also see some DLC from the other franchises, or do you just want to see it, you know, yeah, this is just BlazBlue with guest characters. We own this. What would you rather see here?
I want them to. What I really want them to do is, to be completely honest, what I want them to do is basically, first, just stop with the. First, I want more Ruby character. That's the first thing.
At least even it up with the other guest universes at this point.
Like, I expect a full on full on Ruby only, like they did the BlazBlue time, like, reveal characters. I expect at least one of those.
Okay.
Because it's just, at this point, it's just like, this is ridiculous. We need more Ruby characters. Like, I'm not even, like, I wouldn't say I'm a part of the Ruby fandom, but we still need more Ruby characters. Like, it's a bad showing what they're doing right now.
Fair enough.
So, and my another thing is, I hope this game has at least something different about it.
Yeah, I get a little bit of that vibe of, like, this is just like every other, you know, BlazBlue game, except for it's utilizing some of, like, the mechanics from Dragon Ball FighterZ, like the tag out. Like, that's about it. They're melding 2 games that have been somewhat successful or extremely successful, depending on how you look at it, and they're just melding them together.
So my thing is, I would like it to be something, you know, unique, because from what I've seen, the game doesn't look that unique. I like the resonant burst system. I like that. I like.
It looks like I think my main issue is like the damage ratio is going to be an issue. I feel like, from what I've seen, I feel like if you don't tag out, there's going to be a lot of damage done.
Exactly.
I feel like characters do too much high damage is what I've noticed from gameplay that I've seen. And it's just like, I feel like they're gonna need to nerf how much damage a character does. Not just like specific character, but character in general. Because I feel like, especially from I see matches only last like 24 seconds if the character just doesn't switch out.
Okay. So, Justin, the reason I brought you in here, now we've kind of summarized what Thurman wants from that. I'm going to summarize with just one point. Clarification.
Yep.